right, guys. Welcome to the live stream. Hello and Boosted, presented by Modified Lifestyle. We are here today with Travis Joe from Black Glass Auto Styling and Matt Daigle from Sema Action Network and my lovely co-host Jeremy Gruber from Modified Lifestyle.
Hello,
How's
hello.
everybody doing tonight?
Doing
How's it
well. How are
going?
you guys?
Good.
So we're here to talk about the great events that happened down at Slammed Enough in Gatlinburg this year. Um, Great event. A lot of people go for many different things, the cars, scenery. But this year it got a little out of control. Um, that's what we're here to talk about because it's ruining our car culture. Jeremy, you got anything for us?
Yes. So I basically want to talk about exactly what's been going on. I am 37. I've seen some things. I'm not that old, but overall, what I've seen this year in particular, and last year, and then with H2O, has been really unfortunate. I got to say that it's really disappointing, and I think this is something that doesn't reflect everybody in the scene. Most of us just like to come out, hang out, and have a good time, admiring each other's builds and getting inspired by each other's builds.
Definitely. Um, I know Travis was down here this year. He wasn't there for the crappy events that happened later in the weekend. How was it, Travis, in the beginning of the week with the show? What was it like? How was the attitudes, the whole presence?
It was basically what I was told it would be. It was a beautiful area, lots of scenery, lots of really cool driving roads. And then basically, you show up to any type of car meet locally, and there's, one little spot where there's a couple cars. Down there, everything was a car meet. Every gas station, every parking lot, everything was filled with beautiful rides. Not just like the low end, like kind of low modified, like low dollar builds, but really really nice high quality stuff. So everywhere you went, lots of people admiring what I was driving, admiring their cars, and overall I had a great time. I'm glad I went. I was told that it's probably going to be canceled, next year. There was a little bit of a if I don't go now, I may never make it. Just like H2O, I missed out on that. So I made the last minute decision to hop in the car and drive 10 hours, and I'm glad I did it.
Well, glad that you did get to go down there. I heard the same
Yeah.
thing. Um, Canceling it, that is something Matt and their team, that's what they do is they fight for things like this for it not to be canceled because
Yeah.
either town, city, or whatever want to put in these laws. Um, what type of stuff can we do to help you, Matt, with stuff like this?
Yeah, and I appreciate you guys having me on because I think, this is a question that is really important for the sake of car culture. Everyone knows SEMA as the show, right? There's stuff that we do the other 360 days out of the year that are equally important for the culture. We have education, we have research and development. And what I do is I'm director of communications for the government affairs team, which is in Washington, D.C. What we're doing on a day-to-day basis is working at the federal and the state level to not only advocate for the 7,000 members that are of SEMA, the businesses that are members of SEMA, but we feel like we're in a unique position and have a lot of ability to speak on behalf of the 70 million automotive enthusiasts that are out there. And we're talking about everyone that could be interested in restoring a vehicle or just, tricking it out or, going off road, taking it to the track. Um, Everything that has to do with like car culture in the grand sense of it, we feel like we have a platform to speak and advocate for those people. And the stuff that we do is very strategic, very holistic, where, through the SEMA Action Network, we are engaging with, the community of enthusiasts. We're working with our member businesses to help understand, make sure we understand the financial impact of what they do. And then, we work with regulatory agencies and lawmakers at the state, local, and federal levels. And what we're largely doing is helping remind them that the car scene isn't a hobby, it's a lifestyle, and that there's so much positivity that comes out of it. There's so much good, just community focused activities that happen. And these are people that deserve to have a voice. The automotive aftermarket industry, which is primarily what Sema's focused on, is a $337 billion annual economic impact, right? So that's not just the people that are, developing and selling the parts that you guys are putting on your cars and trucks. These are the people that buy it. These are the people that working an extra shift so that they can afford to do what they want to for their car, their truck, their vehicle. That is largely an extension of them as who they are as a person, and an extension of who, the kind of things that they like to do with the people that, they surround themselves with. So, when something like GAT happens, Seba felt like we have an obligation to speak up, because I don't think people understand what's put at risk through these sort of things. We have spent a lot of time and energy reminding lawmakers and regulatory agencies that our community is one of positivity and just growth and just really great stuff. And then this is what the headlines look like. The videos are awful because we are a visual people, right? So when they see the stuff that's happening at the gas station, and other stuff that's happening, burnouts and takeovers and whatever, it just so undercuts the message of what we're trying to portray the community as, with lawmakers. And those are the people that they're sensitive to these sort of things. So, I'll give you an example. GAT happened in Diana Harshbarger's district. She's the congresswoman from Tennessee who represents that area of Tennessee. She's in Washington, D.C. Right now, we've got her signed on as the lead for major legislation that would be right to modify, not right to repair, right to modify. So that's like a step beyond right to repair, because it really looks at things. And I know from a fact, because I worked on the Hill, every morning she's getting a set of headlines from her local community and from national stuff. And when stuff like GAT's happening, and it's not just in the local headlines, it's making national headlines, the optics aren't great. And to her credit, she and her staff, they're huge backers of the car scene. They understand the impact, the economic impact, the cultural impact, the positive stuff that comes out of it. But it makes it hard for her to go to other people in Congress who we need as co-sponsors and votes to get things moving, to say like, hey, this is something we should stand up for. The car people are legit. They're pretty great, decent people. I just work hard and just want to play hard too. So I mean, I think that's really what how we look at it. We're put in awkward situations sometimes where we have such a big platform, and people in the media will say SEMA is the center of the automotive universe, and we want to embrace that, because we do feel like we're in this awesome spot to have a great event and have this great culture that kind of flows through SEMA as an organization. But with that comes responsibility to be able to say something when stuff like this happens, and provide air support for the community as the community starts saying enough is enough.
It feels like we're seeing like a push for collective punishment almost. Like lawmakers aren't writing laws really against like doing donuts at an intersection. They're writing broad like exhibition driving or modified exhaust, and laws that punish everybody for the actions of like just a few. And so like the biggest legislative threat that we're seeing right now is pretty much overly broad, I would say, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost like there are local jurisdictions that are just looking for an excuse to come down on the car scene hard. Our friend Jordan, who's Shipbox Garage, you might know him. I think he said it really well in one of his videos. They're just looking for an excuse, and we had a little bit of a flare up in Nevada in the summer, because some headlines made way about this local bill in Nevada that got passed, that allows them to be a little bit more prescriptive in how they crack down and enforce on the car scene. There was a lot of misinformation out there. The reality is SEMA played a role in helping them understand what the car scene needed and making sure that that legislation supported us. And at the end of the day, we did support that legislation. But and what it means is that, if you're being, suspected of a Clean Air Act violation at the federal level, they can enforce it locally. They just needed a mechanism to do it. But the way that it plays out in the states and at the local level is they look at it and they go, do we have to be really hard on these people? If they can't self-police, we need to be able to have laws. And that's where the nuisance stuff comes in. It's the exhaust noise. And you know we don't want to see anything happening with takeovers. We don't want those to be legal. But just some dude that's just driving around his community should feel like they can just do it. I mean, there are really positive car meets that happen on a regular basis, and even some of the informal stuff that happens in a Walmart parking lot at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. That's cool stuff, as long as people can keep their wits about themselves and just be good about it and just do the stuff that just kind of binds us together. But it just makes it hard for us to really push on that sort of thing, knowing that there's we're really just one incident away from these events and opportunities being taken away, and B, you're right, something happening where a local lawmaker decides that they want to really set an example, and they put some law in the books that is overly restricted for the car scene, and then the car scene just dries up. We need to really establish a landscape that helps promote a positive handoff to the next generation. People aren't going to get rid of their cars, and they're not going to get rid of stuff, but we want to make sure that they have the ability to do so safely and legally.
And that's what we're trying to do here, is build the culture the way it's supposed to be from the ground roots up. Now, Travis himself, he is big into the car culture and the scene here in the local area. He does shows, sponsors shows. Now, how does that affect you, Travis, and what's your take on the whole takeover scene?
I mean, it's terrible. I mean, I look at it where the last day of the event was canceled, and I just look at it from the vendor's perspective. These guys have traveled, hours and hours and spent a lot of money on merch and employees and hotels and all kinds of things to be there. And because of a couple, guys that kind of screwed it all up for everybody, they are out, thousands of dollars, and I feel bad for them. Overall, I think, a lot of what you said, I really enjoyed that show. I think that the police down in Gat and the other Seaverville or whatever it's called, they were really cool. The police were always on site, but they were always kind of understanding. People were revving, they were being a little bit rowdy, but they were cool with it. They were just kind of letting everybody do their thing and having a good time until it got out of hand, and then that's where it all got shut down. So overall, we were really close to having a perfect show, but we see where we're at.
So if takeovers keep going, what do you think is going to happen to the culture?
It's not good. I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to get afraid of even going to them. You're like, I don't even want to. I'm just going to avoid it. I don't want to go. I don't want to get a part of that. I don't want to be get my car screwed up. I don't want a possibility of going to jail or anything like that. So, people that would potentially go are just gonna skip out on it. So they're gonna get smaller and smaller as we go.
Which is basically diminishing the culture little by little.
Of course.
Now, Jeremy, you've been around a while. You too. You've been in the car community a long time. You run a magazine.
Yeah.
How does this affect you on a level of personal and business, and when it comes to the culture?
Well, I can say that during H2O, definitely during H2O, there was a decrease even in sales because I think people are scared almost to represent their favorite brands or the favorite people that they work with anymore. And I think Travis also described it perfectly as well. But we have the external battle, which Matt is fighting in the halls of government. We've got the political fallout of it. And then we have all these vendors and businesses that are going to these events. And like myself, we're getting affected. I mean, we pay for things like insurance and trailers and so many other things just to make it to an event. And when it's farther out and then it gets canceled, that doesn't just affect us, it affects everyone. So the fallout is huge right now. It's kind of like a ripple, and it just, we can't be passive. We have to fight this.
Definitely, and that's where, Matt, his team comes in. What more can we do as a community to help you guys, Matt?
I mean, I think it's policing ourselves. It's really speaking up against it. It's not participating. It's calling out the cloud chasers. I think the consensus. I think people share the opinion that the people that are doing takeovers, they're not part of the car scene. They're looking to like ruin a vehicle and pick up some clicks and likes, and it's like that doesn't help anyone. But maybe like I don't know, cancel culture is like probably not the way to go about this if we can bring people along, and help them understand, like give them a good experience with the car scene and help them understand how it's bigger than just like doing a takeover or whatever. um, but yeah, I mean, it's policing our own, it's calling these things out, it's not engaging with the cloud chasers. I mean, I don't like canceling people, but like I think shame still goes a long way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Shaming is like still a good thing. I mean, I think social helping people understand that something's socially not acceptable, and I think I think that's what it really comes down to. And being a unified voice for this stuff is going to be really important. It's going to be really important.
Yeah,
Yeah. So when it comes back to takeovers, though, it is kind of a big part of what the culture was and is. So back in the '80s, it started out in Oakland, California. It was what we call pop ups right now. People got together. When cops came, they listened, they dispersed. No crap, no jumping on things, vandalizing. And then I believe in the early 2000s, when social media and Fast and the Furious came together, it started glamorizing the big takeover scene, and I think it just got out of hand from there. If we can bring it back and people would actually respect, the law or somebody's business property, and when they came and said, "All right, no more disperse," and everybody got out, it wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because Travis made a really great point that the cops were really chill up until that point.
Yeah.
And those are relationships that we should be cultivating. I think
yeah,
you could probably make a case that a lot of cops grew up, interested in cars and being part of that. So, and it's not like saying like, oh, we should be on the side of law enforcement in the sense that, whatever, like they can still do their thing and police a community, and the car scene can still do its thing. But I think having a positive relationship with those people and helping, make sure that things are just above level, I think is probably a great place to start. But I think showing the example of reinforcing to law enforcement that we have the ability to police our own is going to be a big part of it.
Definitely.
I agree.
yeah. I think the point is right now all about education. It's taking a lot of these kids that are on social media like TikTok, Instagram, and wherever. They think the whole scene is just hooning, you know.
Yes.
And so I think it's on us. It's on us, the media, the event organizers, all the veterans, and there's a better way. So we need to show them. There are track days, autocross, sanctioned events. Like there's so many more things that we can do, kind of without tearing everything down and starting over.
Well, it said
Yeah,
it's part of the culture, so it's about just respect. If people can just get that back in their system, it would go a long way.
I think one of the things that we look at from the perspective of that culture, because you talked about autocross and like some of those things. We need more spaces that people can go to, and we need more tracks, essentially is what it comes to locally. And we need to a lot of the energy that we've been investing on a legislative sense, at the federal and state level, is trying to keep tracks open and create an environment that makes it easier for tracks to stay open, not only from a business sense, because a lot of these smaller local tracks they're small businesses, they're just owned by local people that are just kind of providing us a family friendly service for the community. um, and at the federal level, making sure that the tax code, like there's motorsports tax credit piece of legislation that we're trying to get passed right now that's going to help track owners, reinvest in their facilities, whether it's like, upgrading the grandstands and the bathrooms or the surface of the track itself. Those are all things that make it easier for tracks to stay open so that the first time someone shows up with a bag of money and says, "Hey, I want to buy your track so I can turn it into warehouses or townhouses or something like that," like they don't feel that pressure, that they know that there's this like landscape that allows them to be a successful business and still provide, that quality of entertainment and community to, the local area. I mean, we know that motorsports is a $69 billion annual economic impact. That's the motorsports industry, and that's not like talking about like, oh, when like there's a big track, big race in Charlotte, this is all the hotels and the tourism. No, no, no. This is like the stuff from like the businesses and the companies and the jobs and everything that gets created around motorsports. And motorsports at the local level is where the people that get to the national level, whether it's NASCAR or F1 or whatever, they all started at that place, right? And that's all where someone was working on a local crew and had a really great idea and then decided to spin off their business into some part that they now show at SEMA. That's really what we're looking to protect. But if we have those venues and we have those opportunities for people to gather legally and engage with the community legally in a safe place, they're going to be less inclined to do the stuff like takeovers because they know they can go to a track night.
Yeah.
And and tracks need the support, but it's hard. It's not a lucrative business to own a racetrack, and there's a lot of we just keep hearing about tracks closing, and and that scares us, to be completely frank, because we want to make sure that this culture is sustainable from day one when you're showing up at a track with your parents to when you're bringing your grandkids of your own for the first time.
Definitely agree.
Yeah.
And I know you guys just had a big win, what, North Carolina, when it comes to that?
Yeah. North Carolina was exciting. So, one of the things that tracks deal with on a regular basis is they've been in place for like, 50, 60, 70 years, sometimes like going back to the bootlegger days.
Yeah.
Um, and then somebody builds a set of townhouses like, football field distance away, and then those neighbors go, "Hey, it's really loud. Can you just shut down the track? Thanks a lot." And there was like, "Wait a minute, we were here. You moved into a townhouse that was within like eye shot of the track. Like, what are you doing?" So what we're trying to do is make sure we're getting, some of that immunity from those nuisance complaints. We started in Iowa. We've moved this to North Carolina. It is going to be a big legislative focus for us at the state level in 2026, trying to make sure that states get it on the books that tracks that were there, that were established, that have been operating the right way, and with all the permits and everything, that they have some like footing to be, and some protections to know that like we're going to be able to just do our thing and we're not going to get shut down by the local NIMBYs. I mean, and NIMBY being not in my backyard, I mean, it's a term that we use all the time, but the NIMBYs are the ones that like are really just killing the culture because they don't understand it and they don't appreciate it, and they just want to push things so that they can increase their property value. Personally, I think there's great property value in being close to a track because there's that a great lifestyle there. But like, it shouldn't be one of those things where you show up and tell someone that they have to leave. It's like almost like it's like, no, you move. So we're trying to really push that at the state level in 2026, and we're looking forward to getting people engaged at the state level where we're doing it, and we want people to talk to their lawmakers and send letters and reiterate the positive culture that grows that forms around racetracks, and talk about how these are important community institutions.
No, definitely. I mean, I grew up going to the dirt track my whole life. Grandparents brought me there. It was a big part of my life, going to the drag strip. I mean, it was fun. We need to start doing that again, making the events at the tracks, special days to bring kids in, because that's what we need to start with is the kids. If we don't start with them, we don't have the future. So,
Yeah, and Matt, you bring up really crucial points about like our hobby. So if we're seeing racetracks across the country, and they're all closing down due to complaints or what have you, whatever it may be, that this actually happened recently. One of our viewers brought it up. Station 117 was a local one out in Goldsboro, Birdsboro, Goldsboro, and they were running for a while, and then all of a sudden somebody who lived there complained, and they went to the township and they got booted out, permanently closed. Boom, case closed, done.
Yeah.
It was really unfair to our scene.
Yeah, and I think that's why, we are finding that it takes organizing, but once you're able to, uh, we're fairly sophisticated in our government affairs work, where we're not just showing up and saying like, "Hey, we want it," and we because we like it. We do try to pair it with data, and the economic impact stuff is just so critical because that's what moves votes in state houses and at the federal level. It's being able to show like, yeah, there's an emotional impact and tie, but then we're talking about impacting a lot of jobs and a lot of like just a lot of like cultural stuff that is just very very important to a local community. um, and I think one of the reasons that we were excited about you know Iowa and North Carolina moving this year is because it does serve as a proof of concept that there is an appetite for this. There's bipartisan support for this sort of thing. It doesn't take much to help people understand the impact of cars on every and on people's lives. And they're one of the few things that we all have a relationship with. you know it may not, you might not consider yourself to be a car enthusiast or a gearhead or anything like that, and you might not be able to change your oil, but you did probably at one point have a cool road trip with the family, and you did have maybe someone, maybe there was an older teenager in your neighborhood that had the cool car that you're just like, oh, that guy's cool. And so I think when we are able to connect the dots for lawmakers and help them understand why these things are important, and they're uniquely American. We have such a different automotive culture than other parts of the world. SEMA just joined FIA, which is like an international organization that a lot of people know for its relationship because it's the sanctioning body for F1. So we hear a lot of people FIA. They're like, those guys. They're like totally screwing with my driver this weekend. But they do so much more on an international level in the safety and mobility space. So we've been able to start engaging as a full member of that organization and meeting with people from other parts of the world and really appreciating their culture and how they look at their cars and trucks and how they fit into their overall thing. And they look at the United States in such awe. They're like, you guys you're the Wild West in such a good way. And I think that's one of the things that we have to be mindful of. With going back to that takeover culture, if those are the visuals that people are seeing, they're going to think that the Americans are a bunch of knuckleheads. And as international stuff starts developing out, and we're talking about, global understanding of how some of the advanced driver assistance systems, the ADAS systems, the automatic braking, that sort of thing, as we start coming up with like global standards, like we need to be able to have a voice at the table. We're one of the countries that has, and there aren't many of them, but has a really strong, robust modifying culture. And to be able to tie all that stuff together, the optics just aren't great. So whether it's the track stuff or it's the modification stuff, or it's just, this is our time to lead as a nation and really just double down on what's great about car culture. And they're all pieces in a big puzzle, and they're all equally important.
Definitely agree. Sorry. So with that, from a community aspect, with putting together shows, putting together events, is that something where you would work with local promoters like Travis himself, where we can put on shows to focus on the change and get
I
more people involved, so they have the awareness, because that's where a lot of people are lost, is they're not aware of everything that's going on and what you guys are doing to protect the whole community.
I mean, I think it comes down to highlighting and putting on a pedestal all the positivity that comes out of a show. If Travis puts on a show and it's a successful event, let's scream it from the rooftops. Let's tell everyone why it was successful and remind them like we got this many people in and everyone was having a good time. Let's show those pictures. Let's show those videos. I went down. So Elite Tuners has a really great circuit of shows, and I went down to the one that they had just south of us in August, and I'm in Washington D.C. by the way, so it's like it was in like Fredericksburg, Virginia, and it was just such an impressive thing to watch how people just moved in and out, and then just how they just interacted and engaged with everyone, and it was just a really cool, chill thing. I think part of what we want to do is we want to highlight those things and make sure that people are seeing those things, seeing that those videos, and like let's overcome all the takeover videos with videos of like cool stuff, show off like the really great cars and the people that are interacting. um it's funny because uh one of the things that SEMA, from a government affairs perspective, has been trying to do is be more present in the community, and that was good feedback that we got from Solomon over at the Ford Era Instagram account, and he was like, "You guys got to put a face to this nebulous organization that's called SEMA." And I said, "Great. Where do we start? How do we start doing this? Let's start going to go to the shows, go to the big
Yeah.
ones." So we went to Rick Ross in June, which I don't know if you know, but Rick Ross happens on his lawn, and
Yes.
there's
I'm definitely
no
going to.
drama. And
Yeah.
the way that they work with the local law enforcement, it's funny because like on the day of the show or even the day before, there's just so many like county, law enforcement just helping direct traffic, and they're setting up signage. They're just there's no knucklehead behavior. It is pretty remarkable. And they have like these kind of spin-off events that happen that weekend. They've got some stuff over at the drag strip and some other stuff, and you never hear about just like the bad actors, because I think people all are just super respectful and they get in line. It's like I think we need to be promoting that culture.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Freddie and Rick Ross and just like how do you guys pull it off? And I think that like we should be sharing best practices. How do you engage with the local
Yeah.
community? How do you get permitted? How do you get them comfortable with this idea? How do you, if you want to start a show, how do you sell it on the local basis in terms of like economic impact? Like GAT had people coming in um, from Canada, trailering in vehicles and just coming to hang out and whatever. Those are people that are eating at restaurants. Those are people that are, getting hotels, buying gas at the local gas
Yeah.
stations, and just doing whatever. And it's a way to showcase your community in a very positive sense. So if you can partner with those people and you can get everything involved, there's a lot of really great events that happen every weekend that we just don't hear about it. We hear about the bad stuff. Those are the ones that end up in the headlines. But at the end of the day, there's a way to do this, and I think we should be talking and like figuring out like what are the best practices for putting on a show like this. And if somebody wants to start a new show, what do they need to know? Who can show up and say, "Hey, let me help you support. Let me help you organize it so that you're doing it the right way the first time, and you're growing in a way that you can handle." Like, don't just jump from like getting 50 cars one year and the next year you're like, we want 5,000. Like
Yeah.
that's not like realistic. But like, how do we do this? Like, let's have people that are promoting these shows and organizing these shows talking to each other, and treating it not as competition but as like a real scene of colleagues.
Yeah. Travis, I actually have a question for you. What do you feel would be one of the best things we could do now that would be immediate impact to the scene, or at least at local shows? Like, what can we do better?
I feel that the local shows go pretty well. I mean, most of this stuff that happens with these takeovers, I really don't see too much of it. Any of the shows I've been to, I've been to probably 50 shows this year, and when a traditional car show or car meet, these types of things don't necessarily happen. I get things. It's when they just get too big and too out of control. I feel like they tend to happen at more of the free events and the stuff that kind of happens after dark.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say how to avoid it. Obviously, we need to give Rick Ross a call and see what his thoughts are on this. Maybe he can be on the next podcast. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna think about it and see if there's anything I can do, and talk to my friends that run shows as well. But so far, I guess I've been lucky, or we've been doing something right, because we don't have these types of people doing crazy things and disrespecting other people's property and ruining it for everybody else.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you recently just had one that was a benefit show
Yeah.
for a good cause. Great
Yeah.
turnout. How many cars did you have at that event?
I got to make an actual final count, but our parking lot was 100% full. I had to start turning people away. I think we were about 200 ish, 250 or so. It went really well. We raised some money for a great cause, and I'm happy to do it, and we're going to keep doing it. And like I said, everybody was respectful of my property, and we're going to just keep going. That no police came, no nothing, no riffraff, and at the end, we even got a little rowdy and revved the hell out of our cars, and everybody was happy.
And that's a story Travis should be able to tell to local media and just get a
Yeah.
newspaper there.
Okay.
Talk about how much money you raised, how many people you brought
Sure.
in. I
Yeah, be
mean,
happy to.
yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing that we want out there.
Yeah.
What's the positive stories really they do outweigh the negative. This is a super overwhelmingly positive community. So
I think
let's make sure
there's
people are telling
lots
that.
and I'm sorry, there's lots and lots and lots of positive stories out there.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, what gets shared, what gets viral is the negative stuff.
yeah,
So I guess maybe part of it, something small that we can all do is when something bad happens, don't share it. Don't add fuel to the fire.
100%.
You're right.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting too, and I keep Jordan Graff keeps coming up because I think he's been a very vocal vocal person in the aftermath of GAT, but he called out a content creator who was kind of exploiting that whole thing.
Oh.
And he was basically like, he's like, I don't have beef with this guy, but like what he's doing is wrong. And he's got hundreds of thousands of followers across, his different platforms. And, he's, taking joking pictures of of him and, getting arrested supposedly, but it's all staged. But it's
I've
just
seen
like,
that.
yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, we need to remind people what's at stake. And again, it comes back to why SEMA issued a statement.
Yeah.
We need people to understand the big picture here. We're trying to protect automotive culture and the automotive lifestyle. And, we all have a hand in it. And it starts with maybe it's getting involved with the SEMA Action Network stuff, but it's also just being a positive voice and calling out bad behavior when it happens. And, pulling people aside and saying like what you're doing is ruining it for people and this is how.
Yeah. So on a government level, right? Um, these guys do this for clicks and views, and it's obviously the bigger accounts for money. They make money off these social medias. What if we got something in with the social media to where they put that in their rules where if uh something like that is being showed, you don't make no money off of it.
Yeah.
That can stop a lot of these creators that are doing it for the clicks, for the dollar.
Yeah, that's true. I think having that would be like actually super helpful. Um, but how do we fight monetization on platforms that survive through monetization? You know what I mean? Like that's a difficult thing to solve.
They have rules where if you swear, your video is disqualified. If you do this, it's disqualified. Violence
Yeah.
is disqualified. That's chaos. Why is that not disqualified?
Well, it should be. If we have AI and it's capable of doing all these crazy things, I think having a platform where we're just constantly searching for these types of videos and these hubs that we're using should put those certain restrictions in place. But I think that's where CMA comes in, and that's where us as enthusiasts and everyone come in. Like us running these businesses and trying to do this, like the publication for the magazine, just our podcast, all of it. I think all of this is just the means to hopefully an end of the chaos.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you have to be careful because I think the last thing we want is social media, certainly AI coming down and it's if you're casting that kind of a wide net, it's kind of like it's the tuna fisheries that are catching in the other fish that don't necessarily they don't want to get. We don't want the legitimate stuff getting caught up in that net, and so I think we have to be very careful. I think it starts with I don't know, maybe there's people start putting on their social media profile I'm against takeovers, and like, use that as a badge of courage where people are starting to say, if you don't see that, it's because you're on the outside looking in. You're not part of this gang. You're not part of this culture. And people should all be able to kind of get behind it, and calling out people when they are posting that stuff. People are going to post that stuff, and it might not be one of those things, but I would hate for something that gets labeled as a takeover, and then you find out this was a permitted event where they were able to kind of close off, a section of road. They were working with the cops, they worked with the county and the city and whatever. And this is just kind of like one of those things. I think it's a slippery slope, and I think it starts with our ability to really take ownership of this issue as a community.
I can see where that would become very slippery. Definitely do.
Yeah, AI is a little scary in that front.
Yeah.
Let's keep it away.
So how do we get that badge almost onto like every positive post or event, or like, do we want to use a hashtag? Like what can
we
we
gotta
do?
start a hashtag right now.
Yeah, what do you guys want to start this hashtag off as, so we can start a badge of honor?
No more takeovers.
Yeah. No more
Simple as that.
takeovers. That's simple.
I'll put it in my bio right now.
All right, so hashtag no more takeovers. That's what we're gonna go with.
Reddit.
And tell people why you're doing that. When you put out a post and say, like, this is in my bio now. This is why. This is why I encourage you to do it. Let's make sure everyone that has a social media platform, whether it's 500 followers or 500,000 followers, have this kind of mentality.
Tag 10 friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it only takes, I think, like a small amount of people to get something started. So, I mean, but it is about taking back our control and the identity. We have to be louder than the chaos, and we have to show the world that, everybody's shutting down highways and doing all this crazy stuff. We're not united with them. It's
And think
it's
about how the
grassroots.
Ice Bucket Challenge started. It started with a couple people that said, I'm going to do this, and because I want to raise awareness, right? And I'm gonna do something that may be a little bit silly, and I'm gonna tag 5 of my friends to do the same thing. So I don't know, maybe there's like an ice bucket challenge kind of thing that we can do to kind of spread awareness and get that really moving within the car community.
Yeah. I think honestly, yeah. And that was another good one, actually, that one of our viewers mentioned. Respect the culture. That's another good one as well.
I think those are all great.
We're going to have to educate, and it's not just a hashtag. This is going to be a declaration of the movement, and I think what you're saying, Matt, is really important. Richard, I'm going to hand it off to you.
No, I definitely agree with everything we've all talked about tonight. Here locally, we have a good reach between enthusiasts, promoters, and businesses where we can all come together in the same movement and get behind this. Travis, Jeremy, you guys have a wide range of people. I'm sure we can make it pretty big here in our local area, and hopefully it spreads out. I mean, social media in a good way can set this off in a wildfire and make it phenomenal, just like in a bad way with takeovers. So let's outweigh that.
I'll do my part.
Awesome. So now, go ahead, Richard.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask. So, like, it's going to be on all of us, I guess, at every meet, every show. If we could work with bigger players, everybody running the larger events, and maybe have them also promote our hashtags and everything else, it could stand, I think, to help a little bit more too.
Yep, I know we got a promoter in here watching the live right now. Downshift Nation is in here with us. He is a big part of the community here in Pennsylvania. He does a lot. Great events. Never has issues at none of his events, neither. And he gives back to the community. We got one coming up November 1st down in Reading. I believe is it 6 to 9 or 6 to 10?
I think it was 5 to. Is it 5 to 8 or later?
I know I think he changed it from the last one.
Oh, he did.
But
yes.
The one he had 4 weeks ago was pretty good.
That was a lot of fun.
It was. So we got
Yeah.
another one coming up in a couple weeks, and we can spread the awareness there. I know me and Jeremy's going to be there, and we want to do some talking and maybe do a little podcast with the people there and spread the word as well. So
Yeah. Matt, what other boots on the ground do you guys have over there at Sand?
Yeah, I mean, again, SEMA is really a voice for every part of the automotive culture. So it's everyone from, we've spent a lot of time talking about the tracks, the off-road community, and keeping motorized access to public lands, like Oceano Dunes in California, Moab, just all those spaces that are just really great and beautiful, and people should have the right to explore. Um, it's collectors and people that are into the heritage of the culture and keeping that culture strong. So been working in California on Leno's law, that is trying to help expand the ability of people to start collecting vehicles that you know really came to the forefront in the 80s and 90s, sometimes in the 70s. Right now, the law in California is that in order to be considered a classic car, it's got to be pre 1972. That's kind of an exception to the rule, especially when you consider how many great cars are from the 80s, late 70s, 80s, 90s that people want to collect. That might be like, collecting a car is really a personal thing. It's like what resonated.
Yeah.
What was the car that you fell in love with? And for some people, it's a DeLorean from Back to the Future. It's something from the Fast and the Furious movies. Those are all kind of cars that should be able to be considered collector vehicles. They're old cars. They're not usually used as daily drivers. So we're trying to help expand the law there. Um, you know, the business environment is obviously very important to SEMA members. And I think part of that trickles down to is, right to repair, right to modify. The ability to take a vehicle and do what you want to do with it safely is really important. We have not supported the current right to repair legislation specifically because it doesn't have protections for people that modify their vehicles. So, being a voice for that sort of thing, and also paying attention to what's coming. I think in 2029 there's going to be a regulation on the books at the federal level that will require new vehicles to be able to brake to a stop at, I think, 62 miles per hour within a certain period of time. We don't think the vehicles are ready, that the industry is ready for that yet. So we're trying to have a voice at the table to understand, all this ADAS systems and how they impact certainly modified vehicles. Because you throw a new bumper on there or a wrap or something like that, these systems, they interact in different ways. So a lot of what we're doing really just it's the gamut of all the different things that affect people that love vehicles, and that's who SEMA has the ability to speak for right now. So I mean, I guess just it's follow the SEMA Action Network Instagram feed and get involved when you see an issue that matters to you. Those are the things that we really want to make sure that we can increase awareness of an issue. My job is
Yeah.
to help people understand why it matters from a communication standpoint, and then give them an opportunity to understand what they can do, whether it's just talking to their local lawmaker or just sending a letter of support or something like that.
Okay.
definitely. Um, Before we wrap this up, Travis, do you have anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I mean, I guess people are going to do what they want to do. I just can't stand inconsiderate people ruining for everybody else. I'm going to say the same stuff that everybody else is going to say. Just think about what you're doing. Car culture is everything to a lot of people, and just one person's actions can ruin an entire meet, and it snowballs from there. So think about that next time you do something stupid.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. This is all about educating new enthusiasts as well. So takeovers don't define us. So
Nope.
I think there's more of us in the right side of the car culture that we can overtake this chaos. Matt, is there anything you'd like to end off with?
No, I really appreciate everyone's support for SEMA, not just for the show, but as an organization that's trying to stand up for everyone. I appreciate the efforts of people like Travis who are really putting putting skin in the game to try to bring positive events to a local community and help, foster a culture that is just so important to people of all ages. And then people like you guys who are just using a platform to really just talk to an audience and bring people together to have a conversation so that we can kind of sort through, a direction that we can, kind of all just use as a North Star.
Definitely. And we appreciate everything you guys are doing. Where can everybody find you guys at? What socials? If you'd let everybody know where they can look you guys up and follow you.
So mine is easy. Everything across the board is at Black Glass Tinting.
And you can find Sema's government affairs work at Sema Action Network on Instagram. Personally, I'm at Matt Daigle, but it's the cooler stuff's at the Sema Action Network side of things.
There you go. Matt, thank you for everything you're doing.
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremy. You got anything else?
Yeah, I think focus on passion, focus on your respecting other people, the businesses around you. Remember that nothing is free or costing somebody money. You can follow me on It's Modified Lifestyle. We have plenty of magazines available as well, and we have 5 new issues coming out. So let's take back the scene.
Definitely. I'd
Thank
like
you,
to thank
Matt.
everybody.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah. Thank everybody for being here. Low and boosted everywhere. Get ready. We got merch coming soon. We got a website coming soon. Me and Jeremy's been working very hard. I'm gonna end this with a video. Everyone, till next time, stay low, stay boosted. Guys, you all have a good night. Put an end to Takeovers.
Jeremy Richard, thank you. See you guys.
See you. Have a great night.